Is it working?
The call is regular meeting order. Call roll.
Mayor Querom.
Here.
Councilmember Swanson.
Here.
Mabry.
Here.
Fabia.
Here.
Newman.
Here. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any public comment? Okay, we'll go to approval of minutes to Commissioner Newman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes from our regular council meeting on September 17, 2018.
Second.
Motion's been second. Any corrections? Call roll.
Councilmember Swanson.
Aye.
Mabry.
I'll abstain.
Fabia.
Aye.
Newman.
Aye.
Mayor Querom.
Aye. Now go to the approval of invoices to City Clerk Nelson.
This period in the Department of Accounts and Finances, we have bills totaling $39,413.08. In the Department of Streets and Public Improvements, we have invoices totaling $120,632.55. In the Department of Public Safety, we have bills totaling, get this, $120,300.55. In the Department of Public Property and Utilities, we have invoices totaling $153,119.63. Mayor, all council members present have confirmed their reviews of all invoices and now are submitted for disposition.
I move that we approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Invoices. I'm sorry.
Second.
Motion has been second. Any comments or corrections?
I will be passing on the bill to myself for $18.85 out of the homestead account.
Anything else? Call roll.
Councilmember Swanson.
Aye.
Mabry.
Aye.
Fabia.
Aye.
Newman.
Aye.
Mayor Querom.
Aye. We'll go to regular business and City Clerk Nelson.
Next item on the agenda, so flip to it here, is ordinance number O-18-025. This is the first reading of an ordinance of the City of Princeton providing for the borrowing of not to exceed $1 million from First State Bank for the purpose of funding an improvement of the electric generation plant. Mayor, all council members have reviewed this ordinance and it is submitted for disposition.
I make a motion that we advance ordinance O-18-025 to the second reading.
Second.
Motion's been second. I'll turn it over to Rachel.
Okay, so this is for the engine overhaul of engine number 4 at the electric plant. We had discussed this a little bit during the budget planning session before the fiscal year, May 1st. And we've also been discussing this with the Utility Advisory Committee that meets monthly. And Jeff is here as well if you have any questions on the specifics of the overhaul and the engine is on and how it works, but I'll just provide some information on the financing. So the option that we're recommending to go with is a line of credit. We submitted a proposal out to all of the banks, and First State Bank came back with the best proposal on that. So it's a line of credit of $1 million. We also have budgeted this year $350,000 in the electric fund to use to start this project, so we'll use that first and then go into the line of credit when we need that. And then depending on how much it costs at the end of the year when that line of credit is up, it's an 18-month line of credit. We'd come back and either decide to pay that off if we have the funds available or roll it into a loan. A few things to note. So like I said, we have the $350,000 that we budgeted this year, so we'll use that first. Next year we expect to budget the same, so come next fiscal year, if we decided to put some money towards that, we could use the $350,000 towards that. We also have a bond payment that's going to be coming due. The last payment on that bond in the electric fund is December 2018, and that's about $400,000 a year. So once that payment's made, we'll have that additional $400,000 to put towards this as well. So that's kind of the finance side of it, if there's any questions.
Jeff, is this the engine that we have the parts for? Did we order parts for a couple of years ago, body parts?
We started a couple of years ago, yeah.
Okay, so we do have some of the parts.
Yeah, we have a good share of the more expensive stuff. But as the engine is torn down now, things are getting shipped out to get rebuilt, so we'll see.
We'll see, okay. Any other comments?
Are you using a lot of the parts from that engine we purchased in Florida
Nope.
several years?
No, different engine.
Different
That's
engine.
number 7.
And have you started on number 7 also, or no?
No, that one's hopefully in a couple of years.
And Rachel, this interest rate is locked in for the 18 months?
Right, correct.
Rachel, if I could ask just a quick question. Did you have 3 or 4 responses? Did you have
All
the
the
responses?
local banks responded.
That's great.
Yes.
That's perfect. And then the other thing, the cost of issuance is $6,000. Is that a charge from First State Bank for the paperwork to do this, or a charge from someone else?
That's the Rick Joseph with Miller Hall and Trace to do all the paperwork, and because there's lots of documents we have to file too with the state for the tax exemption, so that would be his charge.
Gotcha. So a flat fee, so to speak, from him.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Any further questions, comments? Call roll.
Councilmember Swanson.
Aye.
Mabry.
Aye.
Fabia.
Aye.
Newman.
Aye.
Mayor Querem.
Aye.
Next on the agenda is the invitation for bids. The City of Princeton Water Department will accept sealed bids from reputable suppliers of hydrofluorosilicic acid, hydrated lime, liquid calcium hydroxide, and sodium hypochlorite and carbon dioxide used for the potable water supply treatment for the 2018-2019 process year. Specifications are on file and can be picked up at the office of the City Clerk, 2 South Main, Princeton, Illinois. All bids must be returned in a sealed envelope clearly marked on the outside, chemical bid. Sealed bids must be received by the City of Princeton. Attention City Clerk, 2 South Main, Princeton, Illinois. No later than 10 a.m. Thursday, October 25th, 2018. The bids will be publicly opened and read at that time and place. Faxed or email bids will not be accepted. The city reserves the right to accept or reject any and all bids. That's all I got.
Thanks, Pete. Hello, City Manager report.
The only thing I have tonight is, and I have a couple handouts over there, we are going to be doing our LED bulb giveaway. This is for free LED bulbs, and this is going to be during Public Power Week, so October 7th through the 13th. It's first come, first serve, and a limit of 3 per household. City residents, yes. Thank you. Customers, yeah, utility customers. So that will be next week.
Rachel, do we buy these bulbs, or we acquire these bulbs from another source, or how does that work?
Jeff can tell us that.
They come from the IMEA through the energy program that we work with them through.
Do we have any idea how many bulbs we have?
A little over 1,000 this year.
Thank you, Rachel. I just have a couple items. Last night, Aruga had a presentation out at the Hornbaker Gardens last night. They provide accessible and relational holistic mental health care to area communities for the purpose of restoring hope and purpose through a variety of group-based mind, body, and soul approaches for long-term psychological restoration. The event was put on by Dr. Sarah Scruggs and was very well attended. I think over 200 people were there. Jerry and I attended, as did our police chief, Tom Kammerer, and it was very worthwhile, a very worthwhile presentation, fundraiser, and we're very fortunate to have them in our community. The other thing I have is we will be planting 20 new trees between the post office and City Hall. Those trees will go in on both the east and west side of Main Street in about 2 weeks' time. So that will really work to help soften that whole area up and give it a much more appealing look. So that's all I have for mayor report. Any old business? Any new business?
A few items. First, the trees donated.
As they all are, correct.
Okay, and the other new business that I have, I was just made aware last week, I believe, a business proposal was dropped off about 2 months ago. there has been no communication between this person or us, whether we're going forward, not going forward. I think we should open a line of communication with the person that did drop off the proposal, so we're not leaving him in limbo. He doesn't know whether to continue down the path he did or go in a new direction. So all I'm asking that you may contact Rachel with this person and discuss the proposal that he dropped off in August.
Who is this?
Do I want to give his name?
What was the proposal for? What was it on? With reference to a building, a property?
A purchase.
Well, there was a proposal dropped off, and it was dropped off to myself and Pete Nelson, if that's the one you're talking about. And I spoke with the individual on Friday at Homestead in front of Spoons about it. And essentially, two things. I essentially told him that going forward, this is on the recycling building north of the railroad tracks. We had a request for proposal on this a couple months before that. High school was one of the institutions that put a bid in for that building, and Premier Products was the other one. And we had 3 council members support selling that building to another tax-exempt institution, and it requires 4 votes, and did not get 4 votes. And as I told this individual here in Homestead, is that the school still has interest. If we have another RFP, they do have interest in submitting another proposal. And essentially, I don't want to go through that again. I don't have confidence that this council can make the right decision going forward on whether or not we should be selling this to a tax-exempt institution or we should be selling this to a business that's bringing jobs and expanding our tax base. So I kind of left it at that. I said I didn't know if we were going to have an RFP or not. And now we've had some other issues come up, especially with the budget shortfall due to some items that have occurred, especially with our VAC system. So I don't think it's, at this point, I don't think it's prudent that we even discuss having an RFP until our next budget year.
If I could just say something. I know that I was approached by that same individual about a month ago asking me what was going on with the written offer that they had put in to the city. I said, well, I wasn't aware of an offer. And then about 2 weeks ago, that individual said, well, I'd like to show you that offer. So that individual showed me the offer. It was a typewritten offer for cash for the recycling center building for a substantial amount of money. And in that meantime, I did talk to Kirk Herring from the high school, and I'm not here tonight to speak for Kirk, but he indicated to me that the high school would be willing to step aside, and they also have some other options that are available to them at this point. But he would not want to slow down the progress at this point if another business was interested in that, knowing that where he knows now about basically the tone of the fact that we are not all in agreement on how that building should be disposed of. But the good news is there is someone out there in the community that has an interest. I saw the offer. It indicated the price. I'm not going to obviously discuss that, but it indicated they're going to use local contractors to do the repairs to the building, local contractors to do the overhead doors, and it was a cash offer. We wouldn't be waiting for our money. So in the fact that I was one of those council members that had supported the high school, I would say I would be fully in support of a business at this point, because the high school, in my opinion, has backed away and is no longer a suitor in their minds for that building. So I'd like to make that clear to you, Mayor, that I can change my mind on things, and especially if the person that had interest in it before has wavered or changed their mind for the good of the community, I would be in favor of the idea of going back for an RFP.
Well, and I'm all for that as well, and I'd be more than happy to put up any 2 businesses or 3 businesses that have interest in that with RFPs. But it comes back to, is it the prudent thing to do at this point? If we get a cash offer on that building, we would want to use that money to fix up buildings that we have in town that are in disrepair, because we have to have a place to move everything that's in that building. And we would want to use that money to do that repair. But with our budget, we're going to be doing a budget revision because we have a budget shortfall at this point. It seems to me if we were to sell that building, then that money should go to our budget shortfall. But then you're back to catch-22. because then you're back to the situation where, well, where are you going to put all this stuff? Because if we're taking the money, put it in our budget shortfall, we don't have the money to fix that building. So it seems to me the prudent thing to do is, and why I love to see that building sold to a commercial business, is wait for the next budget year. So we can sit down and then we can budget where we're going to get the money to fix up the buildings that we need to fix up to store the equipment that's in that building. That's my only thing. I appreciate you supporting business going to that building. I do really appreciate that, but it just comes down to, what's the best thing to do at this point? And we're only talking new budget year. We start talking after what, first of year. So it's, we're going to be talking about that soon.
It might be a prudent thing to go into executive session sometime in the near future to discuss that building and discuss some options.
I'd like to have a long discussion about these two buildings that supposedly we can fix up. Has anyone really spent any time really looking at those buildings closely? What exactly needs to be done? And are they going to work? Do we know that? Because I don't recall ever having a conversation about these other two properties.
Quint said, what, 180 on the cemetery?
I don't remember, it's been a while, but I know, Jeff and I had talked about adding on to their current shed, and that was going to exceed the cost of what we would sell that building for. And I'll also just mention, when I had talked to the high school after the last RFP, they said that they would still be interested if we went out to bid, so I wasn't aware that they might not be at this point. And then regarding the proposal, another thing too, why it wasn't shared was because it wasn't an open bid at that time, and if there wasn't another RFP, everyone would see those proposals.
All I'm asking is that we reach out to this person and let him know, go in another direction, go forward. We can't have him in limbo. He has to have an answer. He has something pressing, and he'd like to know what direction to go into. So I would like a little communication with them to give him some direction.
Well, as I said 2 weeks ago, I spoke with him and gave him what our position was, and my position was at that time, and whether or not we would even have an RFP and the reasons why. So,
when we initially went out for the RFP, I believe we had an executive session, correct?
To talk about.
Yes. I don't think it hurts to have another executive session and discuss.
You'd only be able to have one, I think, to set the price, but we can talk about setting the price as well. So, that could be the reason for going into executive session, but you can't really talk about anything more than setting the price, which we did, several months ago when we went to have this first RFP.
Maybe the building needs to be reevaluated in terms of its value. If we do this in another 3 or 4 months, maybe the property values change.
When was that done? Do we know? The last one?
The appraisal?
Just right before we put it up.
Right, probably 6 months ago.
So, Ray, normally on appraisal, are they good for like a year or?
Commercial property could be up to 2 years, depending on the property. It's not a hard rule, but it's not like Princeton's commercial market is not like really fluid up and down. It's pretty stable in many ways.
So from a financial, that probably wouldn't be worth spending the money to have it reappraised at this
It
point.
would not.
Well, I think that talking about selling the property is a good thing. If we have an asset that has value out there to a business, I think we should look into it. But I also really think we need to take a good hard look at these proposed buildings that we have. I've never been in these buildings. I don't know what the condition of these buildings are, and I don't know exactly what needs to be done. And I wonder if we could put some hard numbers on this. An estimate off the top of our head isn't good enough for me. I think we could be more detailed.
I think we did have proposals on all of
did?
them, but
Okay.
we'd have to dig that information back up.
Yeah, and Ray and I have been out there at both Cemetery. We went to a building. The posts are rotted at the floor. It's dirt floor. The shell itself, these new gutters and everything, I don't know exactly what all would have to be done to that building, but we're going to spend some money on it. And I think Jeff could, he could speak to that building out there. A lot of people may think that building sits empty. That building is packed, front to rear, side to side. And, it's all mostly electric department. I think maybe water maybe have some stuff in there, or is it just you?
Us and a couple fire trucks.
Yeah, so, and again, we have how many vehicles? We have a couple antique fire trucks in there. We've got a couple old line trucks in there.
We do, and the boring machine, the fiber trailer.
We have to find room for all this stuff. And what we have currently, we just don't, we really don't have.
I sure don't want to sell unless we know that the buildings that we're going to can house everything we need to house.
So the $150,000, for instance, if we were to get $150,000 for that building, that would be a good start on getting these buildings taken care of. But then again, with our budget shortfall, with the back truck going out, and some other items that have come up, I just, personally, I don't think it's prudent that we do anything this budget year. I think we wait until after the first of the year, and when we budget for our next year, really look into these things, get the costs that are needed, and then we can.
This is a big project, and especially if we use our own employees to move all this gear from one building to another. These are non-productive employee paid time that they're going to have to invest in moving this gear, and whatever projects that are on the books for that month are going to get set aside. So again, it's all part of the process. It's a project.
How are we going to do this, Jerry, if we sold this building 3 months ago?
That would have been a mistake, right? Would have been a mistake. In hindsight, that was not a good plan.
Nobody knew that, and then again, nobody knew that we were going to lose a back truck at $350,000 or some of the other expenses that have come up. And and that's the every day-to-day business of a community. Things come up. You plan the best you can. You budget for what you want in the coming year, but very rarely are you going to make it through that year and not have some bumps along the way. And this is a bump along the way, and it's this is a significant bump. You're approaching $500,000. So Jerry's right. If we would have sold that at that time, we'd be scraping the bottom of the bucket for some funds. No question about it.
So just back to the answer. Are we going into executive session or no? At a later date.
Again, we can to discuss the pricing the building, but again, Ray has said that commercial, we have an appraisal, it's not even a year old, and, good maybe for up to 2 years. I mean, I don't see any point in going into executive session to set the price of the building. We know what it appraised for, and I think that's what we go with.
Well, I would just say then, in my summary comments are first that I have an interest in seeing that building sold to someone that obviously could go back on the tax rolls. There's no doubt about that. And if indeed what my interpretation was from the superintendent of high school was that their enthusiasm was not near as great as it was, and that he had told me that they felt that if some valid business was going in there, they would be glad to, waive off on that in the good of the community. Again, I'm not quoting him, but that's my interpretation of what he told me. But I would just go on record as saying then that I would be supportive of a business, an independent business that would bring it back on the tax rolls, create some jobs. So I'm just a little bit baffled here. We had a written offer that was from August 6th in writing, cash from a potential buyer, and that was 2 months ago. So if I hadn't heard about this from the potential buyer, I still would not have known there was an offer out there in writing. It was a professionally written offer. I mean, it was told how the terms were, what they were going to use it for, who the vendors were going to be to do the rehab. So that was from August 6th. So I think, I understand you bring up some points here that it could have been a mistake selling it 3 months ago, but I think we could have.
Would you agree with that, Ray?
Well, I think what happens is we have to look at long-term, and I know that's the big thing. So we pull the trigger based on the information we have at the time, and based on our best judgment calls. That's why we have 4 council members and a mayor. We all can pull together our resources and hash around things. But if that offer, if we would have been communicated to us August 6th that there had been an offer submitted in writing from a cash buyer, I think we might have been, discussing it back in August over this issue.
I think you'll agree that the bigger picture is that if we're going to sell something, we need to have a new home for everything that's in that building.
And I think, yes, and I think, though, that at least when you were supportive of it, we were supportive of it, we felt we had a home for it, or at least a place to go temporarily back then, because we were pulling the trigger back 3 months ago.
Which was wrong. And looking back, in hindsight, that would have been a mistake, because I don't feel comfortable that these buildings are going to be ready and at the price that we can afford to have them accommodate all this gear. But I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged that it could be a commercial property, and I'm encouraged that we're going to do some updating on the numbers to update these buildings and see if the whole thing would work. But this is a project.
Then at this point, I would think that again, I'm just one council member, that we need to let that person know that the building is not for sale at this time. That way that person can move on, or at least know a time frame that we may not be ready till spring. Is that what you're thinking during the budget process?
That's budget year, right?
So we're maybe
That's,
March, April.
and of course, this back machine just went down, what, how long ago, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago? July, oh, it went down in July, but we talked about replacing it just recently. August,
Well, I would just encourage that we would communicate with that person, like Laura said, and let them know at this point that, as far as a council member, I'm speaking by myself, that building is not for sale at this time.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know it's not for sale. It hasn't been for sale. It hasn't been for sale since the last RFP, so it has not been on the market at all. We took the sign down. But I'm kind of confused. You said a month ago you learned of the...
I was told by a person that they had put an offer in, and then 2 weeks ago that person actually approached me, and I did talk to Rachel about it. Approximately 2 weeks ago I mentioned to Rachel, and I'm not here to, put that time frame exactly, that a person had inquired to me and that we needed to get back to that person.
Well, I understand that, but I'm confused. A month ago is when you first marketed this?
I had heard rumors I heard this person tell me that they had put an offer in. I didn't know it was in writing, and then they showed me the offer.
And that was about a month ago?
Correct.
Well, about 2 months ago, when he came into Pete's office, where we were sitting, he told me that you had talked to him about that building, and went so far as to tell him who the person was the school was going to use to strip the building and put new tin up, and that he was going to use that same provider. That goes back to August when we got that bid. But he said he talked to you before that.
I'm not sure about the time frame on that. I do know that the public was made aware there was 2 offers and what they were going to be done with it. And if I shared any information, that was after it was given to the public. I just want to bring it up and clarify that I would be in support of a business, but it appears like really the building is not on the market and it's not for sale at this point.
No, and again, it hasn't been since we had the last RFP.
But it was also announced at a council meeting that it would be on September's agenda.
No, that's not what was said. What I said is that we would consider another RFP in September, and I said, or maybe October. Any other comment? Do you have any public comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting and reconvene at our next.
Well, that we adjourn our regular meeting tonight and reconvene for our next meeting on Monday, October 15th, 2018, 7 o'clock at City Hall.
Second.
Motion second, call roll.
Councilmember Swanson.
Aye.
Mabry.
Aye.
Fabia.
Aye.
Newman.
Aye.
Mayor Querem.
Aye, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for attending.